So we're going to be talking now about the world of digital press. I'm talking to myself, of course. Oh, here we go. We're talking about digital press, and as I mentioned just before when we wrapped up Josh's session, it's important to know how to talk to the media, and it's important to understand what they look like these days. This is what the media looks like these days. This is an award-winning journalist. This is Rhett Wilkinson, and he's going to be telling us what we should need to know now, because the press has changed in the advent of digital, and we are in the digital arena. So here to tell us more about what to expect, Rhett. Thank you, Rhett.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, so like I totally admit that like it might be thought like, oh, I know about the press, I see it every day. But the press has changed dramatically. It's not, newspapers are still around, but like even myself, like I believe in journalism, intent like strongly, like religiously almost, I admit, but newspapers, no. I also admit that there has to be a change, and that change is happening and has largely happened. And so, so what that means is that there's a lot of uncertainty. I think there's a lot of uncertainty with where people think press comes from and who reporters are. And I think this also informs a lot of the political discussion around this fake news term, because there's just a lot of misunderstanding. Some people have argued, right, like that the Trump administration came to rise because of a lot of uncertainty that's occurring in society, just in terms of a lot of policy. And when it comes to press, as just one swath of that, that is like a reflection of that uncertainty as much as anything, because a lot of folks just don't realize like there's just been so many changes. I don't necessarily, I understand why there's like such a division between millennials and folks who have been around, like maybe like baby boomers, because like the world is just not the same. It's just like totally like the opposite of what it used to, like what it was in the mid-19th century. And so it's just confusing, and so press epitomizes that for sure. So here we go. Okay, so then looking at press as itself, and then going into the microcosms of that, like in Utah, for instance, I think for a lot of times, for especially like people who are involved in government politics here, they might only expect like the Salt Lake Tribune and Deseret News to be talking with them or interviewing them. And I love both newspapers actually, and this is nothing on commentary on them. What I'm saying is that there's additional press too. It's actually all on the politicians. They need to be able to expect that they're going to be questioned by people that aren't just from the Trib or KTV2 or KSL radio. There's going to be other people in the room who are going to be talking with them. I remember interning before I got committed to journalism, I was interning in a political office, and they were saying that like they're not going to allow bloggers in press conferences, but bloggers sometimes have like there's one publication in Utah that has a reach of media, like of media level, but it's a blog. It's just through WordPress. So they should be allowed into those press conferences. They should be able to question, question Gary Herbert as much as Lee Davidson at the Tribune does, because we're online now. It's 2018. We're on the internet now. So then the publication will still be legitimate because they're still following journalistic principles, and that's what's important. It's not necessarily like where it's coming from. It's that the people who are doing these online publications are still abiding by journalistic rules. So they're still being fair. They're still like avoiding like the Society of Professional Journalists Code of Ethics. Like they're still minimizing harm, being balanced, and recognizing though, and like practicing the pillars, those sorts of pillars, but also like they just that's what's key there. I think. Oh, and like I think that like the Trump administration gets this, so Utah should understand it too, because the Trump administration, it came out 3 weeks ago. They have the Department of Homeland Security who were tracking not just journalists but bloggers, and I'm not. Both are wrong, and this like it makes me really really upset and angry. I admit. I just say it for the point of saying that, like they understand it. Since they're tracking bloggers too, they understand that online media is a real thing, and that there's like power in digital press as well. So like for me, like why I got involved in digital press, I was just like a marketing guy for a Murray business, and then I got fired, and then I just wanted to be a journalist, as I went to school for, and had like done internships for, and then I realized that there's like a whole wide world, a whole new world, to borrow the phrase from Aladdin, and I can explore a lot of different avenues, not just on the printed page. And so like some of these publications, I don't write for all these, but well, I don't write for Utah Investigative Journalism Project, but like these are a few that in Utah you might see that are going to be at these press conferences, just like the Trib or Channel 2. Although Channel 2 needs to improve with the whole Sinclair thing that happened, but Goodman Project is one. That's it's anything about men. So it's a very broad base, and that allows for a lot of like good storytelling. AMI is another publication that has really benefited off of the popularity of Medium. Medium itself Medium took over the blogging world about 2.5 years ago, and then there's been some crazy amazing entrepreneurs who have like capitalized off Medium's popularity since then. So we're like at the point where like it's not just Medium that is popular, it's actually outlets that have been developed off Medium. And one of them is David Smook's AMI, and he has a dozen plus publications within AMI, and there's people all over the country who are writing for them. Like with the Goodman Project, Utah Stories does online exclusives, and you'll see them on the racks, but they do online exclusives as well. Putting them under this category, Utah Investigative Journalism Project is like focused on diving deep, and so like a little bit more on these. Goodman Project, like I really like this quote. It says a glimpse of what enlightened masculinity might look like in the 21st century. That's what the press said when they went, and a lot of it is just like trying to tell just to help. Like there's a lot of questions about like gender and things, and people might truly be agender or whatnot, or like, you know, there's a spectrum, but also they're trying to say like there's just like a man box that we've always been in, and people just have to be outside of that. Like men can be emotional, men can be stay-at-home dads, and there's just not a limit. Like men should be able to be more than just what like is stereotyped. And so then with AMI, I mentioned David. He was a reporter for a newspaper. And AMI really took off when J.K. Rowling shared a post from them. And that was like a big moment for them. And then they have like Extra Newsfeed, Hacker Noon, Movie Time Guru. These are, so like I've done a lot of political reporting for them. And through Goodman Project, I did like Silicon Slopes reporting for Hacker Noon because it's a tech website, and then Movie Time Guru, I just didn't see anybody like writing about the leak of the Star Wars: The Last Jedi, and so I just did it. There was a platform to do it, and like it was being leaked and it was being talked about, but there was like a story. So yeah, we got out there that the leak of the plot, which pissed people off. But I'm a Star Wars fan too. We just gotta relax sometimes. I just realize it's just a movie and not be mad if the plot gets out.
Just a movie, what?
Yeah. So Utah Stories mainly feature small businesses, but they got the online exclusives, as I said. Richard Marcosian leads it. They just had their 10th anniversary. Eric Peterson is on the board, and he's also he did great investigative work for City Weekly, but he understands this for sure, and because Utah Investigative Journalism Project is only online. And check out this story for sure. West Davis Corridor was even talked about in like Utah's federal delegation in D.C., but there was just like a lot of questions and uncertainty, and then like they found out that these two state legislators, Stuart Adams and Brad Wilson, had been just using it just as a profit venture. So they've had other good stories too. Sometimes they partner with the Trib. And then like just other examples, Huffington Post is way popular for this. Like you might know that they're kind of like the figurehead of this idea, but there's others as well. The Inquisitr is one. They go for a lot of viral stuff, but it's been great to write for them because I've been able to cover. I read Miller write a couple stories on the Robert Mueller investigation of Donald Trump, and then CNET's really good. That one's like tech based, so there actually might be a pretty good fit for entertainment stuff, for digital entertainment on CNET. Bleacher Report is sports, so that's not for this, but it might just to get the point across. Condé Nast. They're like pretty much like focused on digital now. They're like a lot of the like the New York-based publications, but they're like very focused on digital now. Uproxx is very similar to Inquisitr and going for a lot of. Excuse me. Shoot.
Oh, good job.
Sorry.
Thank you. Keep talking.
Yeah, Uproxx goes for viral, but obviously it allows for more coverage on like the investigation or a story like stories on the investigation of Trump with Trump and Russia. Patch is cool because they really do focus on local, and they like their model is based off of covering local, and they'll do Utah stories, and you're probably going to see more Patch pretty soon. And then Gawker died, but I did want to mention them even though they're dead because a lot of people know who they are, and it just provides a good example for what I'm talking about. Okay, so then like the type, I think a lot of maybe traditional journalists might like scoff a little bit at it, but it's just it's just different types. So aggregate story writing is a lot of times where you're pulling together stories that have been written, and it allows you to kind of like build a larger theme. So it approaches at least the idea of investigative reporting because it develops a larger theme, but it saves time. So you can be able to get more of these larger theme stories in a quicker time than in the past. I think it's a really, really good thing actually for that reason. And we could only do that because of online. They also want the stories that go viral, as I said, kind of like Inquisitr. And I get more of like the criticism from like the old timers on this, but I think if you're just trying to be a storyteller, this just happens. That's what it's been like for me. And then social media presence for sure as well. But again, I think just because there's Twitter and there's Facebook and there's Google Plus, like you have to have those platforms, not just in journalism, but in so many fields. And so that's just something that happens as you just try to be a storyteller. So like for me, like getting a social media presence, I have 3,700 followers. It's not like 20,000 like Chris Holyfield I know has, but like it was enough for I think like Inquisitr to be interested because because it's not bad. And like, you wonder like, how do I get followers without like paying for them? And for me, I was interning in Congress, again, kind of before I like got committed to journalism 6 years ago. And it was just a Saturday night, and I just, like, pretty much like 2,500 of the 3,700 like happened like one night. And I just was in Congress in an office, and I just started checking out like the Tea Party and all of these members of the Tea Party who would brands like it's hashtag TCOT, top conservatives on Twitter. And I just like grew up conservative, and so I just was in his office, and it just turns out that they just really like each other, and they really will like follow each other, and so I just was doing that, and it just over in one night it really was like 2,500 just all at once. It was kind of nuts. So I think maybe if you want to find people who will follow each other, people who are going to like support each other, they might be doing it kind of in a multi-level marketing kind of way, but it's not about that. It's just about like the presence, the actual social media presence. And then so online publications. If you happen to be a writer that's watching or will be watching, just know that online publications want a strong social media presence. But again, I just think that's that doesn't make the stories fake or wrong or something. It just means that it increases the chances that they're seen, right? Like if a tree falls and in a forest and you don't hear it, like did it happen, right? It's kind of the same thing. Like the stories do have to be seen. Okay, and so it's not fake news in this sense. It's just again, the internet has given the opportunity for news outlets to be online exclusively. And the printed page is amazing. It's good. It gets a little ink on your fingers, as Doug Wright will say. But you can also get that online too. And that's also why publications will have paywalls. The Salt Lake Tribune just put one up, and that's just because they're still selling. They're selling the product that they always have. They just sold the newspapers in the past, and people had to pay for that. So people in the past, before internet, if they wanted to pay to get news, they had to pay for that. And so now it's just the same way. It's just a different platform, just a different way. It's just digital instead of press, or instead of newspaper. But yeah, it's provided the opportunity for new publications. WordPress and other blogs provide amazing tools to be able to build stories that have been constructed in a parallel fashion given the newspaper, and so that's just what happened. And then they're just doing journalism the same way. It's just a different way to just a different place. So I do think they're really important too, because rural media, in my experience, they dropped the ball largely. I had when I worked for one, there was a couple stories that weren't. I'll actually, like, there was one story that they buried, and the city council didn't want me to go to the meetings, and so I was able to use online publication. I was able to pitch it to online publications, and they ran it. And I think that city council probably got more embarrassed than they would have, even because it was then online to 3 million followers a month, 3 million readers a month, rather than maybe like 10,000 in print. So that was. I think that local governments should respect freedom of the press, because if they don't, then there's other ways that their nefarious activity is going to get out there. So, or they could be a better government too. And then that happened also with another rural paper. There was a couple stories that were buried, and they're now online too. So I think it's awesome because, sorry, that was a little bit, my passion's coming out a little bit, but I think that it's important to keep governments accountable, and like I think I think that also people should just, like, definitely students should still major in journalism, and because they're needed in these rural places, and if they're, even if that's not their cup of tea, they can also write for online. Report for American Reporters Without Borders are really good too, and that's totally online. That's exclusively online, but they're also like filling the gap. And even if rural media isn't doing as well as they should do, they there's just a decline in newspapers, or people who don't, like students who aren't taking those jobs. And so like I know at one place there's somebody who's a freshman in college right now just because there's not the jobs. Like if anybody's watching this or will be watching this who are students and are considering their major or whatever, or still not maybe right out of college, I'm not sure, like if you're willing to get paid $15 an hour and you're willing to live in remote places, you can still get journalism jobs. It's not a problem. But that's another reason, because of the talent gap there. Then there's a couple of organizations that are doing this, and they're totally online as well. Okay, so for me, I just wanted to do this just because I think also a lot of people, if you're able to have journalism training, even if you wanted to like audit a journalism class, you could also get involved in writing for online. You know, you're not gonna, like, if you just want to like get your if you just do a press release about how awesome your business is, maybe that's not gonna make it. But if you do something that tells a true story, and then maybe your business is like part of a larger story, then you might be good. So so like I just like to write, and Lucas owes me money because I wrote about Ron and Leia long before they did, and having a kid named Ben. And then I covered the Jazz in high school, and like it was cool to chat with the guy who mentored me that night recently. And then so then I just majored in journalism, and then journalism dies. Not dies, right? But it like declines. And I'm like, well, shit. Like I don't know what to do because I'm gonna graduate now. And so then I just kept going with it. And like I've written about the Jazz and Utah U2 football for the Deseret News. And then, like, if you guys remember Utah State, they really rose under Gary Anderson at that time. They went 11-2 one year, 2012, and they finished the season ranked 16th. And like they would have gone undefeated if a guy had made 2 field goals, or they would have maybe had to win the overtimes. But an amazing, amazing turnaround. Gary Anderson should have stayed there, it turns out, because things haven't worked out for him since then. But especially at Oregon State. But that was a lot of fun. And then just covered BYU football too for the Deseret News, and then this was really cool, and I think also this is important for writers to understand, to like expand what you can do. If you're a good storyteller, if you're like maybe even a better storyteller than an investigator, then you should do screenwriting. And I'm new to this, and I'm totally open to any collaborating with anybody who were looking for screenwriters, because this was a lot of fun. Before Your Time showed in Megaplex Theater in Centerville and Kaysville Theater last year, and also helped in other ways. Lucas McGraw, really deserves credit for that, and maybe you guys would want to connect with him because he made that happen for sure. And it's a fun film. It's like kind of like a live action Pixar, and it was a real blast. And then so then just to give you a sort of idea like what you can do with online journalism, just as long as you know the basics. You can just do really cool stories. I mentioned the Mueller-Trump thing. This story, I was in Denver last week for this one, and it just was, again, like, you see Goodman, you see politicians, like, what's the connection? But they're like really broad, kind of like a lot of online publications are. They're really broad in their editorial scope. And so as Utah's delegation is primarily men, I was able to talk about that. And and same with the Trump resistance in Utah. And then this for thought catalog is another good of a really broad, it's actually wanting you to just talk about what's on your mind. So if you can just be a good writer, you can get a lot of pieces out there. And I just realized if I can talk on this, because I recognize, I've said I'm a fan, but I also recognize kind of the pain that Disney can be for filmmakers locally. And it's because you guys are doing just as good work, basically. And so, that story was a good time because I was just realizing as Kathleen Kennedy was firing all these people, right, the Lucasfilm CEO, she was firing these different people she fired Gareth Edwards, or she had him off for 5 weeks for Rogue One, and then she had Colin Trevorrow off for Episode 9, fully fired him, and he made a good Jurassic World movie. And so I'm man, I don't think it'd be a good time. I don't know if it would actually be enjoyable to work at Lucasfilm. I remember sharing this story in a Facebook group and being like, I think it was a lot of Utah filmmakers. It was a Utah filmmaker group, and I really think, guys, I really think this, it just might be best where you're at because look, if you were to go to Lucasfilm, you could just be fine. You could just be done. So it was good. And then, it's just enjoyable. It's just enjoyable to just do online work because you have an idea, you might be able to do it. And again, get the training, but you're going to have some cool opportunities, I think. I think you kind of just have to be lucky when it comes to USA Today and titles like this, but I think I benefited from. I think they liked here that I was part of Governor Herbert's campaign, again, before I got committed to journalism. So I wrote against him, and it was he was on the campaign. And then Brooke White was in American Idol, and USA Today was doing actually an American Idol beat, not even entertainment, an American Idol beat. And so that's important too. If you're looking to get in the press, just a general press rule, look at the beats. Look at what these media companies have assigned reporters to do. That's really the key. And if you fit inside their beat. And then Dennis Lindsay he's of course the Utah Jazz general manager. This was when he traded he got 3 Golden State Warriors players. Not like the Warriors now. This is when the Warriors. That was a good move for the Warriors too because of what the Warriors have become. But they got Richard Jefferson and Andres Biedrins and a third guy. But the Jazz benefited a lot because they didn't really give up a ton, but then got some cash, and so ESPN liked that one. And then this was when Romney was running for president, actually, and yeah, Fox News, Fox and Friends, Trump's friends now, they said that Romney wasn't Christian, and Ainsley is her first name, and that was just something that Pew was interested in as well, and at least the coverage of her talking like that. So there's how I can be reached. I have no idea why I did the links to Twitter and LinkedIn, so sorry about that. But there's my contact info, and I'm really maybe you guys just maybe UDEN's just looking for more coverage, but that's okay because I think that there's a lot of good stories that you guys have to tell, and I think it's just having been involved with Before Your Time, I see that there's a lot of opportunities for film coverage or for film making in Utah, and that you can really make Hollywood here. But I do think you have to collaborate. I think John's totally right. You got to collaborate, and imagine Hollywood does. And so I think that there's a lot of exciting things. Silicon Slopes making the news all the time for very good reasons. And so as a branch of Silicon Slopes, it seems clear to me that there's a lot of stories.
Is your chance to get ahead of the next big story? That would be us.
I think so. I think that might be. I think that might be the case. So 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 yeah, totally happy to provide any insight that there was to this about how to get in the press and especially where you can, but also the options, because online journalism is such a thing now. There is opportunities for sure, and I guess if there's any questions, then yeah.
So if you look back at some of the articles that you've been responsible for,
Yeah.
would you come up with some of those kind of headlines because they feel like the headline is so important, at least my perspective, in online, the headline is the thing that makes me, as I'm going through all the noise that's out there, that headline is the thing that makes me reflect.
Yeah, I did write these headlines, yes.
So that seems to be a skill in digital press.
Yes, because especially because with print, if you're subscribing to it, like it's going to come to you, and you're going to go outside in the morning, and you're going to take the paper from I guess the driveway if the paperweight can't get it to the right, but then it's going to be right there. But online, you can choose so much of what you want to do, so you got to make sure to have a good headline. It's really important it's just a crazy thing to you have to be accurate, and then to also have it be attention grabbing. You can't just do it.
But the accuracy thing is, I think, where journalism online is falls into clickbait, right? They're attractive just because they're looking for the clicks, and actually the story is nothing like the headline.
Yeah. So that's a tough temptation for online editors to do that, and I guess my advocacy is that it's not as prevalent as people think. If you really are just ask yourself if you truly are a news consumer, even to the level of when newspapers are your only option, or just traditional media. I totally admit though that clickbait is an issue. It's just so easy to do that when editors avoid it, which is usually it's a good commentary on their ethics, and it's an issue, but it's not. I promise I wouldn't be here if I were saying these sorts of things, saying these points of advocacy, if I truly thought that clickbait was such if it's a prominent problem like some say, then it would threaten our democracy. It would, but it's not at that point. It's something that has to be reined in, but it's not. I don't think it threatens our democracy.
Let me ask a maybe an obvious question, but why do you need publications in the realm of online? Because if you can find these stories, and you can write such great headlines, then you can publish them to your 3,700 followers, then wouldn't that, by definition, if you're going to put a story out there, you then become the one they start to follow because then it's your news?
Yeah, I would say without question, Twitter has given an enhanced profile to the reporters, to the people with the boots on the ground.
Right.
It definitely has done that. One trick is that Twitter's life cycle, the life cycle of a tweet is 7 seconds.
Right.
So unless somebody actually has to be actively thinking of you in particular and going to your Twitter to actually view the tweets. Otherwise, you have to just pray that in 7 seconds they're going to catch the link that you put out. So that's.
So you still need the publications?
Yeah, the publications are important because loyalty is really important. It's important they deserve to have loyalty. They work hard, but people will think about a publication, and more often than not, they can also sign up they can sign up to have it come to their inbox, right?
And how do
you can't do that with Twitter. You can't be subscribe to my Twitter feed.
How do you get paid by these publications? They pay you if they run a story? How does that work? I'm not familiar with the business model.
Yeah, Inquisitr paid me. Goodman Project and Thought Catalog, I actually volunteer. I just contribute. So you have to have passion, for sure. So that's Utah Policy paid me.
Is it after the fact they pay you when they use your story, or do they use you to
I've been commissioned with. I was commissioned for a Utah Stories article. So that was for them. The thing for Inquisitr is they want it. I can write whatever I want, but I just have to be reasonable about it, right? Like, have it be recent. Have it be. That's really the key thing. Online journalism is very much about like relevance to like what's happening even that day, right? When you talk about the 24/7 news cycle, I don't know if the online journalism epitomizes that better. So they wanted me to provide something within the 24 hours, but I don't think that was unreasonable either, right? So.
A couple of questions for you. Have you, one, on the articles that you've submitted, have you ever submitted something and then been pressured to change the summary, the outcome, the tone, the spin to fit the narrative? And if yes, have you balked and said, no, I don't want to do this anymore?
I don't think so, but I want to think about it. I don't want to have it be boring for 12 seconds as I think about it, so that I give you a real answer.
All right, so think about that and I'll give you the other question.
Okay.
So part of my background is owning a publishing company, being editor of a magazine. So some of that stuff in the background. Also back then, it was about the newspaper. But hey, here's the information coming to you. It was about the scoop. Who can get the most facts right the quickest.
Yeah.
And then the story would stay alive as long as they could keep it going. You could hear your newspaper in the morning, hey, in the evening you'd see it on the news, they would try to follow up with it, you'd see it the next day and the next day. So you could stretch one of these scoops for a week or two as long as you could keep the facts going, if you will. Now jumping ahead, as you guys just talked about, we're into the era of clickbait and headlines, and people read the headline and think it's fact without looking at the front. So putting on your crystal ball as a press and a journalist now, is the future going more towards we're making judgments based on the headlines only, because that's kind of where we are in a day with so much information and the timestamp is quicker, making information disposable? Or are we going to reach fatigue and journalism and facts are actually going to rise and become more important than they are right now? Because obviously they're the important ones now. That make sense?
Yeah. You're asking somebody.
Big question.
Yeah, you're asking somebody who's trained to understand that there's two sides, right? And you just presented those two sides. So that's a good question. I would definitely think that that if headlines become too much of a problem and if clickbait becomes too much of a problem, that the facts would rise. I don't think there's much of an appetite when Kellyanne Conway says alternative facts. I don't think there's much of an appetite for that.
Now I can give you examples from just my family that disagree with that statement, where the headlines are more important than the actual data and body.
Yeah. Okay. So headlines are to bring the reader into the story that has more detail.
Yep. The
headline cannot be wrong, but it is meant to be able to bring you into that larger picture. So the idea that you only need to read the headline is like fundamentally incorrect. Because,
so I agree with this. I'm asking from the press point of view, not from the consumer point of view.
Yeah. Okay. The clickbait becomes. The clickbait will yield the rise of facts, or it will.
Kill it.
Yeah, it'll kill it. Yeah, I'd want to see clickbait become that big of an issue. I know it's an issue. I think it would need to become it would need to become so much of an issue that Trump really has a leg to stand on when he does something. I'm not sure.
So follow up with the crystal ball. Do you have any ideas on how we would fix it or how you would combat it personally?
Well, Rhett, how are you going to fix it?
I don't know.
Sorry for the big
I'm talking with somebody right now about buying a newspaper, so I don't know if. So it's so I would certainly not do that. I would not do it. That's I just don't expect. I'm just like, I should go to jail if I did that, right? So I don't even think about doing that. Like, I know that these are all accurate headlines, so I think it's. I would probably approve of like a law change where it's like a felony to do something like that, right? So
I'm on your side.
So yeah, so maybe that's the key. Maybe it's a legal resolution.
Right now, in my opinion, we're seeing a separation between the groups that are fighting for journalistic integrity and the other half that are fighting for clicks. I mean, to pick on one in particular, the number of headlines and articles I've seen on Fox.com where the headline has nothing to do with the information they present.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate because the headline is obviously the bigger, badder, more extreme thing.
Yeah. You saying Fox News or local?
Yeah.
Fox News, yeah, well.
Just to pick on one.
Yeah, I would say, yeah, I think Fox News. Right, I think Fox News has that problem, but the CNN gets maligned, but why? Because they
shoot themselves.
Yeah, okay, that's that, yeah. But because they have 5 people at once talking, that doesn't mean the facts are wrong, right? It doesn't mean that they're doing clickbait. It just means maybe they should have 3 people instead of 5. But that's not a legal issue. If we did make it a legal issue, it's not even an ethics issue. So, and to answer your question, the first question, I do not think I've ever been asked. I don't. So that's good.
Any other questions for Rhett?
Yeah, what's the definition of going viral in the digital press world compared to like what we know from going viral on YouTube, etc.? Is it like a certain number? Or you said a couple of them have gone viral. What is that?
About 15,000 plus.
15,000.
Yeah, and for print.
For print.
It's going to be different for video. I know that. I don't know what the number is, but about 15,000.
15,000 reads.
15,000 plus, obviously.
Thank you, Rhett. That was
Yeah.
fantastic. That's
All right, sure.
In the face of some tough questioning from the youth audience.
That's okay.
That's good.
Well impressed.
Well done, Rhett. Okay, thank you, Rhett. That was. I hope you enjoyed that as much. A fascinating insight into digital journalism. Some stuff to think about. Really good. So.